I woke up screaming every night. Whenever the dreams came, the faces of all those lost souls. The ones I didn't save, and the ones I killed. And of course, the worst of all was her. Where am I?
Here.
What was that? Slowly, my eyes were getting used to the darkness. I looked around. It looked like a prison cell. I saw people all around me. Some of them were writhing in pain. Others, completely still. I moved towards the voice. Who are you? Your name? Can you tell me your name? I'm here to help you. Give me your hand. I reached out to the young woman, and then, suddenly, I knew who she was. She had only one hand. The other, the left, had been cut off. The stump wrapped in blood-soaked rags. I could see madness in her eyes. You're Sandra.
Who?
Sandra Valentine, the daughter of Freddie Valentine, a small-time crook. He had talked to me and my new partner, Suko. His daughter had been kidnapped by a criminal organization called the Black Dragon. They had sent him her right hand in a box. Sandra, listen to me. I need your help. I'm going to get you out of here. Sandra!
I'm not here. There's nothing left of me. And soon there'll only be...
What? There'll be what?
the Heilong! The Black Dragon.
The door opened, and a bright light fell into the cell. I blinked, and then I saw, at first, he was just a dark shape, backlit by the light in the corridor.
Mr. Sinclair.
Dominic Lawrence, you son of a bitch. Lawrence had once been a professor of Chinese history at the British Museum. I had come to talk to him, but I walked straight into his trap. The man was insane. He fancied himself the Demonos, a high priest of sorts. He was wearing a mask. It made his face look like that of a lizard, but the muscles were moving.
Oh, how very touching. You're hoping to save her, aren't you, Sinclair? Look at her. Look.
And then I saw she wasn't mad. That was something else. Her eyes were completely black. What did you do to her?
I took her soul. She's alive, but inside, there's nothing but darkness. Come now, both of you. I want you to meet your queen. I want you to meet the dragon.
Miss Perkins.
48 hours ago in Hong Kong, the Black Dragon kidnapped a man named Nicholas Croydon and inserted an organism into his body. And there, it grew bigger. Back in London, John Sinclair and his new partner, Inspector Suko, were supposed to find Croydon, but things hadn't worked out as planned. Sinclair was taken prisoner, and Croydon was killed. The high priest of the Black Dragon had cut the creature out of Croydon's stomach, and the dragon was born.
Sinclair. His radio watch picked up a GPS signal.
Where?
14 miles east of London. Look at this monitor. Right here. That's where they're keeping him. An abandoned water treatment plant in Amesbury. It hasn't been used in 40 years. 6 months ago, it was bought by a Hong Kong investment fund. That's where they are. The Black Dragon.
Good work, Mr. Suko.
The Amesbury Municipal Water Treatment Facility had been built in the 1950s, but it was decommissioned just 20 years later, following a scandal over pollution levels. Since then, the vast area and its massive empty halls had fallen into disrepair. The only people who came here were homeless or drug addicts. The government had put up a fence, but it didn't do much good. The grounds were covered with graffiti and broken glass. The black, armored limousine came to a halt and stood for a few moments in front of the chain-link fence. Then, it flashed its headlights, giving a signal. 4 men, dressed all in black, opened the gate and the car slowly drove into the courtyard. But outside the compound, someone was watching.
Will you look at that?
Slim Freddy Valentine had sent his men to trail John Sinclair and Inspector Suko. Freddy was intent on finding his daughter. Now, he was getting ready to make his move. He was watching the limousine through a pair of binoculars.
What do you see, boss?
Black armored car. 4 men. Take a look.
Only 4 guys? They must have more than that.
Yeah. I wonder,
What?
who's in the car?
What do you want us to do, boss?
Hit 'em with everything we've got. I'm gonna get my daughter back.
All right, boys. Let's dance.
From one of the access roads, a medium-sized lorry approached, racing towards the fence. It made no sign of stopping. It just kept going and going. Less than 5 yards before the fence, the driver's door opened and the man behind the wheel leapt out, but the lorry kept on going. The lorry crashed through the fence and slammed into a concrete column. The warriors of the Black Dragon approached the vehicle and they opened the door, but there was no one inside. All they saw, the last thing they saw, were the sticks of dynamite. The explosion tore open the stone wall. Smoke was rising into the night sky. Valentine's men swarmed into the compound, guns blazing. The Black Dragon warriors returned fire.
Come on, boys!
Freddy Valentine wasn't fond of walking or running, so he had Nicky drive him to the shootout in a luxury sedan. The hole in the fence was big enough. They opened the doors and crouched behind the engine block of his car.
Get down! Nothing can get through this engine block.
Shoot the bastards!
Valentine had put together a team of 7 men, including Little Nicky, his best lads, and enough guns to take on a whole army. 2 of the men were with Valentine and Nicky behind the car. 3 were crouching behind the smoldering remains of the still burning lorry. It didn't offer much protection, and the Black Dragon warriors had them in their crossfire. Their ranks were already thinning.
God damn it, keep shooting! This is England! You're gonna let those dirty foreigners take it from us?
Valentine was using a .357 caliber revolver with a carved handlebar. The first time he'd ever killed a man was with this very gun. Since then, he thought of it as his good luck charm. One of the dirty foreigners was leaning forward too far. Valentine put a bullet in him and saw his chest opening up like a rose in full bloom.
This is how you do it! How it's done, boys! Let's go!
Advance! Cover us!
They moved forward. Valentine knew to press his advantage. He and Nicky slid behind the black armored limousine that had pulled minutes before the assault.
We're sitting ducks out here!
You think this is my first time doing this?
3 wide steps led up to the main entrance. Above the entrance was an awning, held up by 3 massive concrete columns. Behind each of them was a Black Dragon warrior.
They're smart. They're not giving up their cover.
They can wait us out. Bleed us dry.
We have to force their hand.
Little Nicky nodded. He pulled a small bottle from his pocket. A handkerchief was stuffed into the bottleneck. Nicky took out a lighter and lit the cloth.
Throw it!
A Molotov cocktail landed on top of the stairs. Two of the dragon warriors caught fire.
They had the whole building to move around in. 2 minutes, they'll be shooting out the second floor windows.
We stay and we shoot until I've got my soldier. Shoot! Don't let them get away!
Slowly the smoke cleared. The courtyard was littered with corpses. Men who died for nothing but madness of others. Valentine and Nikki were alone. Only the Demonos was still standing. The High Priest.
Valentine, lay down your arm.
Give me my daughter!
The man in the demon mask was engulfed in smoke, seemingly unafraid. He had an AK-47 assault rifle. With terrified eyes, Freddy Valentine watched his men getting mowed down. Even
Nikki!
the armored vehicle stood right in the crossfire. The bullets were denting the metal and the shatterproof glass. Valentine was alone now. He tightened his grip on his gun and moved towards the man in the demon mask.
Give me back my soldier!
The man in the mask only stared at him, impassively. He lowered his assault rifle.
Valentine, surrender.
Soldier!
He passed the black car, which was now severely damaged. Suddenly, the door opened behind Valentine and the driver stepped out. He was a tall man in a black suit. He had a small gun. Valentine turned around. The man aimed at his leg.
You're very foolish, Valentine. But you shall live, so that you may witness the resurrection.
The driver opened the back door. He offered his arm. The hand that took it was old and withered. An old man gingerly stepped out of the car. He was dressed simply in the clothes of a Chinese peasant. He was leaning on a cane. The Demonos kneeled in awe.
Father, all is prepared.
They had brought Sandra and me into the main hall. Rubble was piled up on each side, underneath the large windows by the concrete pillars. Sandra was tied up and gagged, lying on the ground in front of a few stone steps. Me, I was made to kneel by the side, my hands tied behind my back. We were both awaiting our fate. I saw them drag a man inside. I knew him.
Freddy! John!
He was bleeding from the leg.
What is that?
The Heilong, the creature who will do my bidding.
Dozens of people took their places on the sides of the vast concrete hall, their shadows dancing in the flickering torchlight.
Sandra!
Valentine recognized his daughter. The men pushed Valentine to the side of the stone steps. The Demonos walked slowly up the steps. An old man was with him. This, I figured, had to be the man pulling the strings. For decades, he had been secretly building his criminal empire. They called him the Manchurian. The Demonos helped the old man sit down on a concrete bench. Behind them was something that seemed like a gigantic cage. It was covered with a dirty tarp, flapping slightly in the wind that was coming in through the large, cracked windows. I saw the light reflecting his lizard mask. The muscles seemed to be moving, slithering. The Demonos raised his hands. The crowd stopped chanting. And in the silence, I heard... The sound was coming from behind the tarp. There was something in that cage. Something monstrous.
What is that?
Whatever it is, it's alive.
My friends, we have gathered here today to witness a birth. There can be no light without shadow, no day without night. And my brothers and sisters, we are the night. For too long we have lived in the shadows, crouching from the whip. But now we raise our fist, and we will strike hard and fast. My brothers, my sisters, we stand together against the world and with our God, the Black Dragon.
The old man grinned. He looked pleased with himself. Then he nodded, and the Demonos turned and pulled the top off. I have never seen anything like it before. A creature of myth. It looked like a black snake with wings and yellow eyes.
At that moment, a convoy of 3 jeeps arrived outside the facility. Several soldiers jumped out. The men were dressed in black riot gear and carried assault rifles. They swarmed out with trained precision. Their leader was Inspector Suko.
Let's go! Careful.
Their mission, get Sinclair.
The Heilong demands its sacrifice.
3 men held Sandra down. The Demonos walked up to the cage.
No! No!
The Demonos placed his hand on the cage door and... it was free.
We offer you the sacrifice, so that you may bless us with your power, so that you may smite our enemies.
No! I'll kill you! I'll bloody kill you with my own 2 hands! If you lay one hand on her!
Her blood will sanctify the beast.
I turned to look. Suko was standing in the entrance of the hall, and with him were our boys, Special Division. Suko lowered his rifle. He had shot the Demonos in the stomach. The man looked down and stared at his wound. Then he collapsed. But suddenly, with unbelievable speed, the creature lurched forward. The dragon grabbed Sandra with its jaw and raised her up. The man in the mask was supposed to control the dragon, but now he was dead, and there was no one who could control the beast anymore. Our boys unloaded their rifles into it. It flung its prey away. The woman flew through the hall and came crashing down on the hard ground. Our men fanned out, but their bullets couldn't penetrate its scales. Suko ran towards me. He pulled a knife and cut me free.
Took you a while. We've got to stop this beast.
Suko handed me a gun, just in time. One of the Black Dragon warriors came running towards me with a knife. I whirled around. I shot him in the chest. It was him or me. Another man approached me from my right. Suko stepped between us. Suko swung his right foot around as if trying to hit a ball, and he kicked the attacker's feet out from under him. The man stumbled, but didn't fall. Suko's left fist shot forward in a sharp jab and punched the man in the face. Then Suko bent forward and gave his opponent a hard right uppercut. Knockout. I looked appreciatively at Suko.
You fight professionally?
Used to.
I saw that our men had taken positions behind the concrete pillars and were firing at the dragon. It was crouching at the other end of the hall. And on the east side of the hall, I saw Valentine was crawling towards his daughter.
Sandy, no! It's me! Sandy, it's me!
He held her broken body in his arms, rocking her back and forth. Then, just a few feet away, the Manchurian was raising himself up by his cane. Valentine saw him. There was murder in his eyes.
Son of a bitch!
Valentine leapt at the old man. He pressed his fat hands around his withered throat. I ran over. By the time I managed to pull him off, the old man was no longer moving. The dragon, it suddenly lurched towards us. I aimed my gun and fired, but nothing could stop it. I grabbed Freddy and pulled him behind one of the pillars out of the way.
Come on! Shoot it!
Our men advanced towards the monster, and then it opened its mouth wide. Flames shot out. Our men caught fire. They were struggling, screaming. Some dragon warriors were hit as well. Suddenly, the creature spread its giant wings. Then, it leaped upwards.
Take this!
It crashed with its massive head through the huge window. And it was gone. I had taken some cuts and bruises, but at least I was alive. 4 of our men weren't. They'd been burnt alive. The Black Dragon cult was destroyed, its leaders dead. But the beast was free. It was out there, somewhere. Suko had offered to bring me home. Outside, the sun was coming up.
Here we are.
Over there. The sofa.
Nice flat you've got there.
Thank you.
You need a doctor.
What I need is a drink. The cabinet over there. He poured me a drink. I took my ruby red pills with a large sip of whiskey and some aspirin. What about you?
I don't drink.
Of course you don't.
Alcohol dulls your mind.
Yeah, well, it needs dulling right about now.
What's in that folder?
What folder?
Right here.
Oh, that's... The folder contained photographs. Pictures of people I once knew. Ann Baxter, David and Jill Galloway, Alfred Bennett, Maisie Dodd, and many others. The lost souls that follow me in my dreams. Collateral damage.
I see. Who is she?
The little girl?
Yes.
Someone I killed. She was 7. Suko sat down next to me. I looked at him.
Why?
Why what?
Why keep their pictures? Why do this to yourself?
I don't want to forget. All that I do, it's for them. You know.
There's no use praying for an easy life. Much better to pray for the strength to endure the one we have.
Who said that?
Bruce Lee.
Samantha Nichols was on her way to the office. She took the Central line to Tottenham Court Road. Then she went up the escalators, heading towards the Oxford Street exit. She was deep in thought. Her supervisor at the British Museum, Professor Dominic Lawrence, had been acting rather strange lately. He was moody and irritable, even more so than usual. And then the visit by the policeman last night, John Sinclair. Who was he? What did he want? He wasn't bad looking, and he had been trying to flirt with her in a clumsy sort of way. She had toyed with him for a bit, not sure if she was interested. She didn't hear the beating of wings above her head. A huge black shadow appeared in the sky.
What?
She stopped and looked up, and then she saw it.
Oh my God!
With terrifying elegance, the gigantic black creature swooped down from the sky. Samantha stood frozen for a moment. Her mind refused to believe what she was seeing. And then, with sudden clarity, Samantha realized something. It wanted her. It was coming directly for her.
No!
She turned around and ran, pushing through the panicked crowd. She ran blindly across the street, straight through traffic. She was heading back to the tube station entrance towards safety. Samantha came stumbling into the tube station, out of breath. About 10 feet in, she finally slowed down and turned around.
God. No!
Landed in the middle of Oxford Street, smashing an oncoming car with its gigantic claws. The beast turned For a brief, sickening moment, Samantha saw its yellow eyes looking directly at her.
No! Get away from me!
And then it lurched forward, pushing its upper body into the tube station. Samantha turned around and tried to run, but she couldn't. She wanted to push through the panicked, screaming, frenzied crowd, but she was slow, too slow. She suddenly felt huge claws wrapping around her waist. She screamed and kicked and struggled, but she was no match for the beast. It was all over within seconds. The beast dragged her out of the tube station entrance and into the open. Then it flew away, vanishing in the grey sky like a mirage, still carrying Samantha Nichols in its claws.
Suko and I were on our way to the mobile command station at Abingdon Street. All of London was feeling the rage of the Black Dragon. Earlier today, it had snatched a father in the middle of Hyde Park. Then, an investment banker on his afternoon break. An old woman who was feeding pigeons. The sun was going down. It was raining. It was going to be a long night. Special Division had finally managed to trace the beast. We found its nest. It's definitely bigger than last time. Are we going to get up there? The beast was huge. A gigantic black lizard clinging to the clock tower of Big Ben. It didn't belong in our world.
Sinclair! Suko! Over here!
Special Division had set up a provisional command post at the far end of Abingdon Street. Soldiers were rushing in and out of a white tent. Perkins waved us into the tent. How are you, darling?
Don't call me darling.
Inside were tables with maps, broadcast radio stations, soldiers with reams of papers. I saw Sir James, sitting in a folding chair, wearing an anorak and drinking tea from a thermos. He was talking into a satellite phone.
Yes, and you two.
Is Walter concerned?
As a matter of fact, he is. He worries too much, poor soul. Sit down, both of you. Tea?
Is it chamomile?
Oh, why, so it is, regrettably.
I'll pass, thank you.
I'll take some.
We've spent all day tracing the damn thing. We tried to take it out with air power, but it seems immune to normal ammunition. So, these are architectural drawings of Big Ben. As you could doubtlessly discern, that despicable creature is, well, nesting, for lack of a better word, in the upper section. Big Ben is a four-faced clock. The dials are 180 feet above ground.
That's quite a fall.
Let's just hope you'll manage to hang on. I need you to kill that thing.
That position in accounting you mentioned yesterday, is that still available?
Cowardice before the enemy? So unlike you, Sinclair.
The enemy has never been that big before.
Don't be intimidated by its size. I believe you mentioned it has a weak spot.
A very small weak spot. The back of its neck, right underneath its skull. How are we going to get that close? It's madness.
I've been doing this sort of work for almost 40 years now. And if I were a younger man, I'd climb up there myself and strangle the damn thing. But as it is, I have to rely on you two. And not just me. England. We cannot allow our cherished landmarks to be soiled by giant lizards. It's unbecoming, and it's bad for tourism. I know you're afraid. Frankly, we all are. But that cannot deter us. This is our home, and it's under attack.
In my country, there's a saying. A sly rabbit will have 3 openings to its den.
What's he talking about, Sinclair?
Rabbits, apparently.
This isn't a rabbit. It's a dragon.
You said she's nesting in the tower. That means it's going to be well defended. We cannot go up the stairs. She'll be expecting that.
She?
We were told it's a female.
They're always trouble. Forget the stairs. We're going to do an airdrop.
A what?
An airdrop, you know, from a plane.
From a plane?
With parachutes.
At least that.
Captain Green will circle over the tower, and you two will jump out of the plane, just like you learned in basic training.
We'll be fish in a barrel.
Let me finish. The 108th Tank Battalion will be arriving a moment later. They'll distract the thing.
How?
With overwhelming firepower.
Let me see if I've got this right. The army boys will fire at the dragon while Suko and I jump onto Big Ben with parachutes?
Yes, that's more or less it. It appears to be a little clumsy, dangerous from a distance, but once you get close, it should be a piece of cake.
Should. What's this?
A harpoon. A dart gun, actually. It's used in fishing, tuna and the like.
Tuna. I see.
Our lads have modified it. Here, hold it.
The business end of the harpoon was sticking out of what looked like a sleek, sawn-off shotgun.
The dart is 2.2 pounds of solid steel. It's got a 7mm stainless steel spring shaft. We bought these at a diving supplies store in Southwark, designed for heavy penetration. They're fast and highly accurate, according to the chap at the store. You simply press the trigger.
I was never any good at darts.
Positive thinking, my boy. There's a cable attached. The idea is to shoot the dart and bury it under its scales. You'll both be wearing harnesses, which are linked to the cable.
So we'll be attaching ourselves to the Heilong?
Yes, and once you're attached to it, you just pull one more arrow from your quiver. This one. It has an explosive tip. Bang!
That sounds incredibly dangerous.
Well, as I said, accounting is no longer an option. Oh, and one more thing, Sinclair.
Yes?
One of its victims up there. It's Samantha Nichols.
Suko and I were wearing black combat uniforms. We had our parachute backpacks strapped on tight. Our portable harpoons were on shoulder slings across our chest. I had a quiver strapped to my side. We were holding onto the handrail of the plane. The lights of London were shimmering below. Under different circumstances, it would have been a beautiful sight.
All right, gentlemen. We're at the drop zone. This is it. You can control the direction by pulling on the left and the right strap of your parachutes. Godspeed, and good luck.
Thank you. Captain Jeremiah Green was one of our lads from Airborne. I had worked with him before. He was a good soldier. I looked out of the open jump doors and saw that the 108th Tank Battalion was opening fire on the creature. The explosions were like tiny specks of light, briefly flaring up in the night. It opened its mouth, and a plume of fire emerged. It was an awesome and terrifying sight. Suddenly, it let go of the tower. Its giant black wings were flapping. It swooped over Westminster Bridge and opened its mouth. Clouds of fire came out. Suddenly, it reared its massive head, and it saw us.
It's coming now!
But before we could jump, it reached the plane and dug its claws into the aluminium hull. We were going down. Suko and I held on for dear life.
Suko, good luck.
Good luck, John.
Suko jumped. I saw his body fall and vanish in the darkness and the rain.
Go! Get out of here! On my way!
I jumped. There's nothing quite like it. Stepping into the void. It takes your breath away. You feel nothing but emptiness below, and the adrenaline shooting through your body. And then I pulled the release on my parachute. The Heilong was coming closer. I strained to look over my shoulder. The dragon was like a black shadow slowly descending on me. I could see Captain Green's plane. It was damaged and going down fast. Green was standing in the doorway, holding himself with one hand, shooting an assault rifle with the other. One of the engines was on fire, but Green kept shooting, distracting the monster. He jumped out at the last possible moment. His parachute drifted off in the wind. The plane crashed. When I looked down again, I saw Big Ben just a few feet to my right. I was just about to miss it. I pulled the strap and caught a gust of wind. I was drifting towards it now. Then, suddenly, the clock was right in front of me. The wind smashed me straight through the glass facade. I detached my parachute and rolled off. I got to my feet. I was inside the giant clock mechanism. Massive pistons and gear wheels were working all around me. Suko?
Up here!
There was a metal staircase in one of the corners, probably for the workers. I heard a voice inside me. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. My vision was blurry. I stumbled towards the staircase. When I reached the floor above, my knees gave in, and I had to hold onto the handrail. Oh my God! I was in the attic. The massive bells were hanging still from the ceiling. Oh my God! And what I saw up there made me sick. It was the people. All the Heilong victims were here. The floor was covered in blood. Most of them were dead, their bodies torn to shreds. Their dead eyes staring at me with quiet despair and agony. Human entrails were spilled over the floor. I saw torn-off limbs casually scattered around. But that wasn't the worst. Not all of them were dead. In the middle of the vast hall, underneath the massive bells, was a nest. It was made up of large tree branches. And inside it was something that I'll never forget as long as I live. Large, gray eggs, as tall as a small child. Some of them were cracked open, others were pulsating, about to burst. The stench was unbearable. The egg cracked open, and something crawled out. They looked like larvae, thick, black snakes. They moved around blindly, slithering, their eyes still shut. The worst was the people. Larvae were sliding around their victims. The Heilong must have broken their arms and legs. Some of them had swollen bellies, pulsing with life inside. The larvae were crawling into their mouths, nesting inside their bodies.
John, help me.
I looked around. Samantha Nichols was tied to one of the columns in the attic, a short distance from the nest, held down by a slimy, string-like substance. It was no coincidence. I knew what the dragon was doing. It was trying to lure me. Samantha! I ran towards her.
What is this? It's using us to breed.
I'll cut you free! But suddenly, we turned around. The black dragon was landing, its wings pushing the air in. Its claws were grasping the columns of the bell tower as it dragged its massive body inside. It was moving with eerie elegance, sliding slowly through the open archways of the bell. It entered my mind like a knife. I collapsed to my knees.
John!
I felt disoriented. I could feel its thoughts, and I had to fight back. I concentrated my thoughts.
What is it you want?
My lips weren't moving, but I was talking to it. Its yellow eyes staring into my soul.
John Sinclair. Come to me. Join me.
It wasn't moving. It was just looking at me. I was hoping to distract it while I came closer, but I couldn't be sure what was real anymore. I saw visions. She was beautiful. Her long, dark hair was flowing in the wind. She was naked. The Heilong. She had taken on a human shape in my mind. The shape of my desires. But her eyes were yellow with snake-like slits. She placed her hands on my chest, and she smiled at me.
You're afraid. I can see it in your eyes.
No, no!
You don't have to be. You can join me.
No. Her lips came closer to me. No.
All this fear, this uncertainty, I can take it from you. There is a different path.
Don't.
A truer world.
I can't. This isn't real.
And why isn't it?
My thoughts were swimming. I felt myself getting weak, as if I were holding on to something. But my grasp was slowly slipping.
John!
His voice pulled me back. I opened my eyes and I saw. I raised my dart gun and aimed at the beast. And then I saw the beast rear up in rage and pain. Its claws came towards me like a scythe. Suko rammed against me, pushing me out of the way. The claws swiped. I could see him collapse. Blood squirted out of his open stomach in a fine mist.
Suko!
The beast reared up once more. It stumbled back. And then the bells were moving. I saw one of them swing towards the dragon. The bell hit the dragon in the side, pushing it over as if it were a toy. The creature lost its bearing. It was pushed out of the archway, and then it was falling. But the harpoon was buried deep, and the beast was dragging me with her. The dragon went over the ledge, and I with it. Then, mid-fall, the beast managed to dig its claws into the side of the tower. I was strapped in my harness, dangling helplessly, 150 feet or so above the ground. I slammed against the tower wall. I looked up. The dragon was crawling up, back towards its lair. Its young, taking me with it. Then, suddenly, it turned its massive head, and I saw its yellow eyes glare at me. I swung myself to the left, holding onto the cable with both hands. I needed to get out of the way. It spat fire at me. I swung straight through the flames. Far below, the 108th Tank Battalion started shooting at the beast. Not good. With both hands on the cable, I slowly managed to climb up. Above me, the dragon climbed back into the bell attic. Big Ben had stopped ringing, at least that. Then, I reached the beast. I held onto the huge scale sticking out on its back. It tried to turn its head towards me, but I was on its back like a rodeo rider. It couldn't reach me, for now. Suddenly, it smashed its back against the wall, knocking the air out of me. But I held on. I climbed forward on its back. It occurred to me, for a brief moment, that I was riding a dragon. I reached the base of its head. The thing was huge. I loaded my dart gun, the explosive arrow. And then, when it turned its head, I saw the weak spot. Pink flesh opening up underneath all those black scales. The arrow shot through its neck. It came out the other side, sticking out of its front. I unbuckled my harness. And then the explosion took its head off. I was thrown off and came down hard on the ground. It was over. It was all over.
John!
I ran towards Samantha. Using a pocket knife, I cut her out.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Thank you.
Thank me later. Suko! I stumbled towards Suko. He was lying in a pool of his own blood.
Suko! John, take my hand.
I took his hand and held it. Look at me, Suko! Look at me! You're going to be all right.
I can't feel my legs anymore.
Don't give up! You have to fight! Only he who gives up loses the fight.
Is that is saying?
It is now.
I can see it.
See what?
The darkness. I can touch it.
Look at me, not at it, at me! I could see his eyes clouding, his grip weakened. Then, his hand let go of mine and sank down. Suko! Suko! No! The soldiers came with flamethrowers and destroyed the nest. Most of the people were dead, but we managed to save at least 4 souls, and 9 dead. I had a few broken ribs, nothing too serious. A few days later, I visited Suko in the hospital.
Where am I?
You're awake.
Why wouldn't I be?
Oh, I don't know. Because you were dying?
What happened?
The Heilong slashed your stomach. Doctors worked for 14 hours to patch it back up.
John, we're not a bad team. You and I.
Don't get too attached. People around me have a habit of dying.
Not me.
You're tough. I give you that. I spoke to Sir James. Once you're fully recovered, he'll be sending you back to Hong Kong to finish the job. What's left of the Black Dragon cult.
What about you?
I'll be here. London is my town. I'll be off. Let me know if you need anything. See you around.
1 day, 3 autumns.
What?
It's a chenyu.
A what?
An idiomatic expression. Chenyu were used in classical Chinese order.
Yes, what does it mean?
It means that if you miss someone, 1 day feels as long as 3 autumns.
In English, we also have a saying.
Yes?
Shut the hell up.
Goodbye, John.
When I went outside, someone was waiting for me.
Hello, John.
What brings you here?
I wanted to thank you. You saved my life.
Just doing my job. Ma'am.
I'm not kidding. I'm alive because of you.
I nodded. Nice to hear, I suppose, that there's more than collateral damage. That sometimes things turn out right. Well, I would offer you a cigarette, but I've been trying to quit. I've got gum though. Spin it.
Lead me not into temptation.
I walked towards her, and her eyes lit up.
John Sinclair Demon Hunter, Episode 11, Rage of the Black Dragon, Part 2 of 2. Audio movie by Gabriel Conroy, based on the original novel by Jason Dark. John Sinclair was played by Andrew Wincott. The narrator was Anthony Scordi. Glenda Perkins was Jess Robinson, Sir James Powell David Rintoul, and Shuko Chris Nelson. Samantha Nichols was played by Alex Dunmore, Professor Dominic Lawrence by Neil McCall, Freddie Valentine by Dan Mersch, Little Nicky by Daniel Kendrick, and Heilong by Laurence Bouvard. Sandra Valentine was performed by Emma Tate, and Captain Jeremiah Green by Nico Lennon. Recorded from March 2016 to April 2018 at OMUK Studios, London. The recording engineer was Juan Manuel Delfin, the voice director Douglas Velbat, the creative director Patrick Simon, and the casting consultant Victoria Prentice. The executive producer was Mark Zieper. Post-production provided by Ear to Brain Productions. This was a Lubit audio production, all rights reserved.